You've been losing battles you didn't even know you were in, not because you're weak, but because you keep showing your cards before the game even starts. In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to turn being underestimated into your most dangerous advantage. Of course, if you asked Niccolò Machiavelli, he'd probably tell you to stop radiating brilliance like a street lamp for every moth to find. The man understood something most self-proclaimed smart guys never will. Sometimes the fastest way to power is to look like you have no idea what you're doing. In a world where everyone is desperate to look like the smartest person in the room, the man who plays the fool is often the one holding the kill shot. To most, that feels like madness. You spend years sharpening your mind, every lesson, every observation, every silent calculation, only to hide it behind the perfect disguise, a man who looks like he's not even playing the game. But the Machiavellian sees something different. He sees that intelligence is only valuable when it's used at the right moment. Revealing it too soon is like showing your hand in poker before the bet is placed. You don't win respect, you win targets on your back. The moment you reveal too much of yourself, the game changes. People start competing with you, feeling threatened, quietly undermining you, preparing counters, whispering behind your back. And all because you unveiled your greatest weapon too soon, your mind. A true strategist hides it. He lets them think he's soft, mild, inexperienced, harmless, and then, when the stakes are real, he turns the entire room with a single, well-placed sentence. That's not foolishness, it's calculated theater. Most people are hooked on validation. They can't stand being underestimated. The idea that someone might think they're slow feels insulting, so they leap to prove themselves. I knew that already. Let me correct you. Here's the real answer. But in Machiavelli's world, this is the moment he'd smile and say, congratulations. You've just made yourself predictable. You've shown your entire arsenal. Now your enemies know exactly who you are, what you value, and precisely how to manipulate you. And worse, the person you were trying to impress doesn't respect you, they've simply filed you away as another ego-driven intellectual. Instead of dominating the room, you've made yourself part of the furniture. The Machiavellian reverses this. He lets the world believe he's naive, average, distracted. While they relax, he observes, calculates, moves closer to their weak points. Because there's a kind of silence only the strategic can wield, a silence born not from ignorance, but from deliberate restraint. Most people will click away and forget this in an hour. The smart ones will hit like, subscribe, and quietly get more dangerous every week. Sun Tzu said, "Appear weak when you are strong." Machiavelli took that to a sharper edge. He didn't just appear weak, he allowed others to believe they had power over him, and the moment they got comfortable, he dismantled them from within. This works because of ego inflation. When people think they're the smartest in the room, they loosen their grip, start bragging, reveal secrets, expose flaws. And who's quietly watching all of it? The so-called fool. That's why the tactic is so lethal. It draws honesty from your enemies, deflates your rivals, lowers defenses, and makes your final move seem like a miracle, even though you designed it from the start. You've seen this before, in negotiations, in relationships, in politics. The one who stays quiet, asks seemingly naive questions, lets others speak first, listens more than they talk, and when the time is right, says one thing that ends the discussion. That's not luck, that's the discipline of selective display. They reveal nothing until revealing it ends the war in a single strike. It's the executive who speaks little in meetings but closes the deal with a single counteroffer. The quiet friend who knows everyone's secrets because he never interrupts. The investor who feigns uncertainty until the valuation drops, then buys everything. These men aren't fools, they simply wear the mask better than anyone else. They understand what most never grasp, People underestimate what they don't fear. So if you want to be feared, start by not being feared at all. Fools are taken lightly, and Machiavellians exploit this as if it were carved in stone. Let them underestimate you. Let them talk too much. Let them bask in feeling superior. Let them drop their guard and invite you closer, thinking they're in control, and when the silence grows heavy, that's when you make your move. Not with noise. Not with emotion. But with precision. A sentence. A refusal. A pivot that shifts the entire dynamic. A question that reveals a weakness they thought was hidden. And in that moment, the room realizes you weren't lagging behind, you were baiting them from the start. That's the difference between raw intelligence and strategic intelligence. This isn't about playing dumb, it's about acting like you have less leverage than you truly do, until they give you the opening. Then you make it undeniable that you were never in the dark. You were simply waiting for the right moment, the one where the room is too blind to stop you. If the world rewarded pure intelligence, it would be your greatest weapon. But it doesn't. The world rewards control, and control comes not from displaying your brilliance, but from concealing it until the moment it can't be countered. That's where most people lose before the game even starts, too loud, too eager, too desperate to be seen as smart. Machiavelli would remind you, a man who shows his cards too early teaches his enemies exactly how to beat him. The real game isn't about visibility, it's about invisibility until the leverage is yours. Machiavelli's preferred intelligence wasn't the kind that aces exams, it was the kind that reads a room like a battlefield. People don't fear what they understand, they fear what they can't read. And unreadable men don't react, don't rush to speak, don't flinch when insulted, don't correct others, don't chase victory in arguments. They let the other side bury itself. This is calculated foolishness, allowing others to believe they're steering the conversation, letting them feel like the smartest person in the room, while you're already 10 moves ahead, quietly collecting every piece on the board. It's not about hiding forever, it's about holding your silence until it becomes unbearable, and then breaking it with surgical precision. We live in an age where everyone is obsessed with being right, where speaking the most is mistaken for winning, and where silence is interpreted as weakness, and that is exactly why the tactic of strategic stupidity works so well. In a world of fragile egos and constant noise, the man who speaks less becomes a gravitational void, a black hole of mystery. He might be judged, misunderstood, even mocked, but beneath that surface, he controls perception entirely. Here's the truth. People project their fantasies and fears onto the unknown. The moment you make yourself unreadable, you become a mirror. They stop discovering who you are and start revealing who they are. This is how the Machiavellian gathers intelligence, letting others expose themselves through their own assumptions. While they try to play chess, he's studying their fingers, their breath, their tells, waiting for the perfect moment to dismantle the entire board. Picture walking into a room full of men posturing, arguing, each desperate to be the most dominant. You remain silent, speaking only when addressed directly, offering no opinion, simply observing. One man talks too much, eager to prove himself. Another assumes you're shy and relaxes his guard. A third tries to manipulate you, thinking you're easy prey. All of them, without realizing it, reveal their strategies while you record every detail. Later, when you finally act, you dismantle each one with a single move built entirely from what they gave you, and that is not luck, it is Machiavellian deception at its finest, letting the fool run into the trap and the clever man believe it's a celebration. In negotiation, this tactic is devastating. Show your sharpness too soon and people will grow guarded, prepare counters, hide information. But ask a question that sounds naive and they will over-explain, expose weaknesses, reveal urgency. The more you seem not to get it, the more they try to convince you, and the more leverage you quietly accumulate. Once they believe you are harmless, you deliver your offer, perfectly shaped from every detail they foolishly disclosed. In social hierarchies, the effect is just as lethal. In a group where everyone wants to be the alpha, the true alpha is rarely the loudest voice. Acting unbothered, slow to react, or even a little awkward pulls you out of the competition just long enough to observe the battlefield, to see exactly who seeks dominance, who craves validation, who gossips, who flatters. Once you have this map, you can apply pressure with precision, flipping the structure without ever openly joining the fight, altering the balance so subtly no one notices until it's done. In romance or seduction, this is where many men fail. They try to impress too quickly, speaking like job applicants, rushing to prove their worth. But the most desirable man is elusive, not stupid, but detached, not clueless, but unreadable. Pretending not to care, not to notice, and not to compete creates more obsession than openly trying to win someone ever could. People fall for the mystery they cannot solve, not for the man who lays all his cards on the table in the first 5 minutes. Pretending to be foolish is not weakness or passivity, it is a mask worn by someone who is paying attention to everything. The silent man is mistaken for a coward only if he is truly inattentive, but the Machiavellian is never inattentive. Every word you speak becomes a tool in his hand. Every assumption you make feeds his next move. He may appear slow, but while you're busy explaining yourself, he has already decided how to dismantle you. This is why those who feel the need to display their intelligence lose, while those who can convincingly feign ignorance win. The longer you wear the mask, the deeper your strike when the time comes. The great irony of intelligence is that the moment you prove it, you start losing control of it, because once displayed, it becomes a target, inviting rivalry, resistance, and insecurity. But hidden intelligence becomes a shadow, sense but untraceable, a threat that cannot be prepared for. They won't know where it's coming from or when it will land. That isn't weakness, it's dominance in disguise. Imagine 2 men entering a room, the first, proud, polished, sharp-eyed, immediately assessed by everyone, some admire him, most prepare for him. The second, plain, calm, maybe slightly awkward, corrects no one, makes no claims, shows no hunger for power, and so, people relax, speak freely, expose their insecurities and ambitions, drop their guard entirely. But this second man is sharper than the first, he uses the mask of low threat to gain access to true leverage. Machiavelli called it entering through the servant's door and leaving as king, because you cannot rule a room you haven't first vanished into. This is not just about being quiet, it's about designing your presence with deliberate understatement, asking questions that pull out others' beliefs, letting them feel like they are educating you, and then turning their own words against them with a single, quiet insight. Even selective confusion can be a weapon. Pretending not to understand forces longer explanations, exposes how well, or poorly, the other person knows their own position, and makes them feel more in control. Meanwhile, you are collecting psychological fingerprints, their rhythms, arrogance, blind spots. When they think they have earned your respect, they have in fact handed you the tools to dismantle them. The master strategist allows others to lead while he guides from behind, letting them speak first, set the direction, and believe they are in control, while subtle nudges, gentle suggestions, or well-timed hesitations make them alter their path, until they are moving exactly where he wants them to go. This is not just manipulation, it is rule without visibility. At its core, this is Machiavelli distilled to his very bones, the ability to let others insult you, laugh at you, and underestimate you without once defending yourself, explaining, or even reacting. Because every barb, every smug remark, every supposedly harmless joke is a confession in disguise, a small crack in their armor that reveals their fears, their values, their pride, and the weakest points in their defenses. While they enjoy their own laughter, you sit in silence, sharpening your blade patiently, waiting for the precise moment to reveal that you were never the fool they thought you were, but the quiet observer who had been listening to everything. As the old saying goes, he who appears harmless bypasses the guard. In any hierarchy, the ambitious, the loud, and the openly clever are marked immediately. They are watched, countered, and boxed out at every step. But the fool walks in unnoticed, attracting no resistance, collecting trust by default, becoming the confidant and the safe presence, until one day he is the only person in the room who knows everything, and by that time the hierarchy has already shifted quietly in his favor. By the time anyone realizes a threat was in their midst, it is far too late. The structure they were so eager to defend has been rearranged in silence, piece by piece, until it no longer serves them. And in the personal realm, this same principle explains why those who seem too polished, too perfect, too openly impressive often repel others. They are not relatable, they are not safe, and, worst of all, they are predictable. You become too obvious, and obvious targets are the easiest to destroy. But when you present soft edges, when you appear unsure, relaxed, even slightly aloof, you invite people to lean in closer, to relax their own image of perfection, to reveal their unguarded self. They believe you're someone they can manage, fix, or outwit. And that's when you flip the script, not with aggression, but with precision, becoming the person they chose to open up to, without realizing they were stepping into your frame all along. Machiavelli warned that men must be either flattered or destroyed, and that means this tactic has its limits. Pretend to be a fool for too long, and two dangers will appear. People will begin to genuinely believe you are one, and worse, you might start believing it yourself. This is the greatest trap, forgetting that the mask is a weapon, not your identity. Which is why you must always keep your edge sharp in private, refining your thinking, honing your observations, and rehearsing your delivery, so that when the moment comes to shed the illusion, you don't step forward uncertain, but emerge as a weapon no one saw coming. The most powerful man in the room is almost never the one speaking the loudest, shining the brightest, or rushing to correct others. Power belongs to the man who is watching, measuring, and playing the fool only because he has already written the ending. There is a kind of genius that does not need to be paraded, does not crave applause, and does not chase recognition, because it knows something most never learn. The more predictable you are, the easier it is to destroy you, and the more impressive you seem, the quicker they will come for your crown. Machiavelli's tactic is not simply about being underestimated, it's about deliberately engineering the perception of inferiority so that you can build your empire in plain sight, right under their noses. You do not beg for attention, you draw it by being invisible in all the right places. You do not fight for credit, you let others hang themselves with their own hunger for it. This is not humility, this is strategic invisibility. And pretending to be foolish pays off not in minutes, not in days, but in the slow, methodical unraveling of everyone who thought they had you figured out. Because the greatest advantage of the strategist is letting others walk willingly into their own trap, all the while thinking it was their idea from the start. Once you have convinced people you are naive, they stop hiding their true selves. They talk more than they should, act more recklessly in your presence, ignore your movements, misread your ambitions, and lower their weapons, while you, silently, are sharpening yours. That is when you strike, not loudly, not emotionally, not in public view, but with one move they never saw coming. In their minds, you were harmless. And when they look back, they will never be able to trace how it happened, because you made it look like nothing at all. This is not a theory pulled from air. History is littered with the remains of those who underestimated the wrong fool. Julius Caesar wore the mask of a populist showman, while his rivals mocked his theatrics, until he crossed the Rubicon and Rome was his. Liu Bang, founder of China's Han Dynasty, played the role of the drunken village joker, and his enemies laughed, until he became emperor. They all followed the same pattern. They pretended to be beneath the game until they owned the entire board. That is the essence of Machiavellian brilliance, domination through misdirection, not through brute force. And pretending to be foolish carries with it another dangerous advantage: it makes you immune to most manipulations. While others are busy trying to outshine and outmaneuver each other, you are not competing at all, you are watching. You are observing how people behave towards someone they believe to be beneath them. And that reveals their nature far more effectively than any direct question could. You see who exploits others, who flatters when they need something, who turns cruel when unchallenged, and who hides cowardice behind a loud mouth. And all of this becomes clear the moment you allow them to believe you are no threat at all. Once you truly know who they are, you hold the script for how they will act in any scenario. To apply this, you must resist the urge to jump in with your opinions. Let others speak first. Let them feel dominant. Do not rush to correct their errors. Simply watch. People will always reveal more when they think you are too slow to notice. React less. Train your face to show nothing. When insulted, do not blink. When praised, do not beam. When challenged, do not flinch. Let them fill the silence, and in filling it, expose who they think you are, while your true thoughts remain buried under stillness. Ask questions that sound almost too simple, instead of making statements that sound clever. You will be surprised how often the simplest question leads to the longest and most telling answer. Let them think you are slower than you are. Take your time before answering. Make them believe you are hesitating or unsure. They will either grow overconfident or, in their eagerness to guide you, reveal the very thing you needed to know. You are not wandering, you are leading them deeper into your frame. Most people are terrified of being misunderstood. The strategist welcomes it. The more wrong they are about you, the greater your advantage. A man perceived as dangerous meets constant resistance. A man perceived as foolish is given access to information, to emotions, to vulnerabilities, to trust he never had to earn but can always exploit. The goal is not to be liked, not to be admired, not even to be feared. It is to be invisible until the exact moment when your presence changes everything. If you're truly intelligent, stop wasting your genius trying to impress people who don't matter. Hide it. Protect it. Let it grow in the shadows, until the day you unleash it where it will rewrite the rules in your favor. Machiavelli's warning still cuts sharp: fools are laughed at, geniuses are attacked, but the man who hides both becomes king. So stay quiet. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them lower their guard. And then, with one silent move, end the game before they even realize it started. If you want the rest of the playbook, the tactics, the psychology, the precision, it's all waiting for you in my Power as Design playlist. This was just the opening move.